How you doing? You doing all right?
Great.
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
Good. So last week I recorded without you,
Yep.
and it was probably one of the best episodes we've ever had.
It's true. Yeah. That's how I thought. That's what I think all of our audience.
Yeah. No, but I talked about you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's
So
good.
if you haven't listened to it yet, it was nothing but wonderful things.
Sure.
So, all right, but we are starting this new series that we've talked about doing,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see how far we get through it. But there's 10 reflections,
Mm-hmm.
and then just to kind of reiterate what we're planning on doing is that this is the first one, so we're not going to have an opportunity to sort of share any feedback we've gotten from somebody, but we will start that next week. So just a reminder, what we'll do is if you're listening and you want to share your thoughts or your feedback, your comments, not just whether or not you liked the reflection, but what it made you feel, what it made you think, how you've experienced that same thing. If you share that, either you can email me at Jeffrey, JEFFREY .Strezoff, STRESZOFF @gmail.com. You can email me, or you can read it on Substack, which is the same name, Jeffrey Strezoff. Make sure it's REY, not ERY. And you can read it. You can leave comments there. And there's links in the episode description connected to this podcast. But you'll share it, and then we'll read that before, and we'll kind of talk about those, and then we'll do the next reflection. So this week we're talking about
If you have, seriously, if you have like positive things to say, that's fantastic. If you have negative things to say, keep it to yourself.
Especially if it's about my writing. Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
All right. So without any further ado, here is the first one, and it's called The Rip Current. The Rip Current. The waves have been coming in all morning, the way they always do, each one announcing itself from 100 yards out, a low dark line rising, then pitching forward, then the white explosion at the sand's edge and the long hiss of water pulling back through shells and grit. You hear it before you see it. You always hear it before you see it. There's nothing subtle about a wave. I was walking the waterline, shoes off, letting the packed sand hold me the way wet sand does, firm and cool and indifferent to your weight. The child, 20 yards ahead of me, ran at each incoming wave and then turned and screamed and ran from it the way children do, as if the wave were chasing her specifically. Her mother sat up on the dry sand and watched. Neither of them were afraid. Not really. The wave tells you what it is. It has always told you what it is. A boardwalk rose on posts near the access point. Tacked to the post, sun-bleached and salt-warped, a laminated card with a diagram. Red arrows showed the channels, the places where the water moves differently, quietly, where the surface looks almost calm between the churning rows of surf. The card said, if you find yourself in a rip current, do not swim against it. Swim parallel to shore. Let it carry you past its edge, then come in. I stood there for a while reading that card. The wave crashes on the shore and everyone sees it. Everyone respects it. Children run from it laughing. Lifeguards watch the water not for the waves, but for the people who've stopped moving. The ones caught in the thing that doesn't announce itself. The quiet channel that looks like the easier way through. We spend considerable energy teaching each other to recognize danger that presents itself as danger. We build systems for it. We post signs. We whitewash the things that will contaminate us and say, here, this, stay back. And most of the time, those systems work well enough. You probably learned most of them young, the way we all did. The dangers that announce themselves, the ones that wear their warning on the surface. What the systems are not built for, what the signs do not cover, is the danger that presents itself as calm, as the easier path, as a safe passage between two breaking waves. The rip current does not announce itself. It doesn't need to. It's patient. It has the whole ocean behind it. You felt this, the relationship that looked like shelter, the certainty that looked like faith, the community that looked like home. The ones that pulled hardest were never the ones that announced themselves as dangerous. They were the ones that looked like the calmer water, the easier passage, the place where the waves weren't breaking. And by the time you understood the current, you were already in it, already moving, the shore already distant behind you. The card said swim parallel, don't fight it directly. Let it carry you past its edge, then come in. The wave that crashes on the shore almost never kills anyone. All right, there you go. What are your thoughts?
I had ambivalent thoughts about this.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, the thing that strikes me listening to it just right now is that, I mean, I gotta say, it seems like a real analogy for conservative living.
Okay.
Let me give you the other side that I was thinking first.
Yep.
We were in either Pismo or Newport one time. I don't remember which one it was, but it doesn't matter because the thing that happened was we were my oldest and I were boogie boarding, and we started to catch some good waves, and we noticed that the waves were getting bigger. All the surfers, of course, were out further than we were, but we started to get some nice ones. And of course, we were getting nice ones because the wind was picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the flags went up.
Okay.
The lifeguard flags.
Yep.
Right? Saying you should stay out of the water. And then after that, the lifeguards started driving their trucks up and down and telling everyone to get out of the water. You're not allowed to get in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, I wanted to get out of the water anyway. I thought, that's a good idea. Them telling me that made me so angry. The idea that they had the authority to tell me to get out of the water made me angry, made me want to get back in the water.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of having the flags up saying, you should, this is our recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
here's your warning, I felt like that was appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
The telling me I'm not allowed to, I have the general kind of, just in terms of how my temperament about wanting society to be set up, I want individuals to be allowed to do the thing they should not do,
Mm-hmm.
right? To cut off their own arm if they want to, to kill themselves, to walk off a cliff, right? And I say that in an extreme way, but you know, I can mean it in ways that are, you know, more understandable. Like, I think you should be allowed to base jump. I think you should be allowed to climb things. You should be, right? And the general kind of underlying principle should be, we will make the boundaries for what we think you should do when it comes to individual choice. And if you choose to go beyond that, you're doing so at your own risk feels like a way of dealing with an adult.
Okay.
Right? So that was my first kind of impulse when I read it. And then as I sat thinking about it, I thought, yes, and.
Okay.
The and is, I think a wise way of like the first impulse was more about like, I don't think another human has the authority to have that power over me. Okay, now that we've established that, great. Now, Lucas, what should you do to live a life? And I think the signs posted saying, "Be careful of thee,"
Mm-hmm.
are very analogous to the boundaries that a society builds up around behavior
Mm-hmm.
that then become codified and absolutely can become corrupted and unnecessary, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But they grow up naturally around collected wisdom
Mm-hmm.
from the past. And so I think that the analogy of the riptide being something that is unseen, however, it is known by those who have come before you. And as Peterson would say, the correct thing to do is what everyone has always done,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have a real good reason to do it otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
because of these types of situations, right? I think you go, well, the first thing that came to my mind is like, you shouldn't have sex unless you're married.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's 2026. I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, came of age in the 90s and early
Mm-hmm.
2000s. As a young adult, I quote unquote knew that's silly, right? That's just religious nonsense.
Mm.
It's silly. You can look out. I can't see any waves coming, crashing down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, you get into a situation, you get pregnant or whatever, you have chaos in your life. And someone might go, well, you know what would help that? Get married to a person and don't have sex outside of that. It's constricting.
Yeah.
It's restrictive. It seems unnecessary. The water's calm.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing there.
Right.
And you got a grandparent saying, I've seen people die in that rip current.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you can't tell.
Right.
Of course. So again, I'm not, and again, it's kind of a, I don't know how people would respond to me saying that type of thing, but that's the type of thing that seems unnecessary, but it seems to me to be analogous to the sign you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the sign that says, if you find yourself in the rip current,
This is how you're going to get out of it.
you're not going to get out of it by coming up with your own way of doing it again.
Right.
Here's some collected wisdom that's not going to seem like it's correct
Mm-hmm.
or related. You're going to have to let it take you. You're going to have to swim parallel. It doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I've seen people go down,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm different. Okay. Do what if you've got ears to hear,
Yeah.
then hear,
Yeah. Yeah. No, the part you're talking about was what was running through my mind as I was thinking about that. Right. And you said it's more conservative. And I think that's, I'm a moderate, let's be honest.
Sure.
We talk about Jeff's, I'm the progressive Christian, and to some, definitely. But to some others, I'm very conservative, and which is probably why I think I'm more moderate. But I firmly believe in the idea that we should learn from other people's mistakes, especially if they've lived to tell us about them.
Mm-hmm.
That there's wisdom that can come,
Mm-hmm.
and that we do not grow up in a vacuum,
Mm-hmm.
and that we should value other people's experiences. I also was thinking about the idea that as I was writing it, we look at the wave and it's crashing, and our experience with that has been that it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot like, there was a period in my life where I surfed, not well, but I surfed, and I talk about that in another reflection.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great time, but it also has its inherent dangers, like I talk about again, which is also very interesting to me, because not only, as I was thinking about all the different reflections, you have the rip tide signs,
Mm-hmm.
you also have the red life, the red life rings,
Mm-hmm.
and you also have the red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all in there to tell you, but it's all pointing to danger, but different types of danger.
Mm.
And which ones are you willing to listen to? But I don't want to get into the other ones yet because hopefully we'll get to talk about those. But yeah, it's this idea that sometimes the thing that looks like it would be the safe way to go isn't.
Mm.
And sometimes the thing that looks like it might be dangerous actually isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's interesting. Going back to the original, the initial topic, one of the things that I try to think about,
mm-hmm.
and I will say this is something that I try to talk to my kids about, even though it is not something that I am somehow perfect in. It's a thing that I think is a good lesson for myself. And that is, I think about it as walking next to a cliff. Like the cliff is there and you can walk next to it and you haven't done anything wrong. You didn't throw yourself off the cliff. You walked next to it. And then when the gust of wind comes up or the gravel shifts under your feet, those are accidents. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for the wind to push you off the cliff, but you fell off the cliff nonetheless because you were next to it. And I think about it in terms of like super silly example, but, I need to get to work and it should take me 10 minutes to drive to work. So I give myself 10 minutes and then there's traffic that I didn't know. And it's true that the traffic's not my fault. And it's true that I'm late because of the traffic, because of the accident. However, I played next to the cliff and we have a choice to not play next to the cliff. That's the thing, right? And so, yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to say I've had many examples where I should have fallen off the cliff and I didn't. I've had many examples where I pulled myself back from a cliff. And there's plenty of examples where I fell off a cliff also. I'm not trying to say like I have it, but it is something that I think about. The whole things that seem like it's going to be the easier way, and then it's not. I mean, that is straight out of, the gospel, right? The wide path and the narrow path.
Yeah.
And I think about, I read Little Pilgrim's Progress. I didn't read the original one. I read the one that was redone for kids. But that's the imagery that I have in my head.
I think the other thing too is with a rip current sign, it doesn't mean that the rip current is currently there.
That's right.
Right. And so
that's right.
Unlike,
you might get lucky.
Unlike the red flags mean that we have observed now is not a good time for you to be in the water.
Sure.
Rip current is a constant.
Yeah.
This is a potential problem.
That's right.
So the question becomes for us in our lives, we should be at least aware that the things that we are doing, even if they look like the safe choice, there still might be potential problems. But it doesn't mean that you don't move forward, which I think is also one of the great things about the sign is, so go ahead and play. Go into the water. And if that is happening at this moment, this will be the best way for you to survive that.
Yeah, it does make me think about, I'm kind of that you can get too focused on safety. What you're talking about is, in any given moment, what are you optimizing for? And of course, you're not going to do this consciously, right? All the time. I mean, even the majority of the time, I think you're not going to do it consciously. But if you're always trying to optimize, we all know the caricature of the person who is always optimizing for safety, and even that can seem like the safe route and ends up
being horrible.
You're putting yourself in a prison, and it's not safe. It's not. You optimize for health at all times, and it turns out that ends up being unhealthy.
I had to have knee surgery because I was working out in the gym. That's why I don't work out anymore.
That's a good.
It's dangerous.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
Well done. But okay. So another thing, and sorry, I keep going back to Peterson, but one of the things that he talks about
I like Peterson.
Is I wasn't saying sorry to you. I was saying sorry to some of our listeners. That what you have to do for children is to allow them to be dangerous in kind of a controlled way, right? You don't just neglect them,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you have to allow them to do the dangerous thing, because again, if you're optimizing for what seems like safety at all times, you will not allow them to do the thing that could possibly get them hurt, which then cripples them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it is actually, to your point, it's the less safe route. Going the route that seems less safe now
Mm-hmm. ends
up being the safer route long term, because you're playing a larger metagame as an individual. And that has to do with learning from the failures
Mm-hmm.
and the pain.
Well, another thing too, and I was having a conversation with a good friend. She's closer to you than she is to me, but a good friend of mine
Mm-hmm.
this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about other stuff. But she was talking about how quickly we can lose wisdom. Like, just takes one generation, wisdom's gone, right? If we don't learn how to communicate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also, though, as I was thinking about that in terms of this
Mm-hmm.
conversation, this reflection, is even the generation that we're trying to share the wisdom with, if they themselves don't experience that as true, then the wisdom's gone.
They have to believe it.
Right.
They have to have some reason to believe it.
They have to have some reason to believe it in order for them to be able to go ahead and share it. So if I think with the sign, with the riptide sign, you see it, you understand that it's a warning to make you aware that even though it looks like it might be safe, there might be some things that you can't see that are underneath, right? And so you go out and you enjoy it. And then if it comes up, then you have an idea of how to get out of it safely. But now you still have to listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way that the next generation believes that sign is if the generation just previous to them experienced the truth of it.
Mm.
And so the only way that we can actually we have
is
to
that true?
we have to have our own experiences. We can't just simply take it at face value that is the truth.
I think that's probably true. I'm trying to think. I don't want to just. I think you're right. I believe that the earth is round.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that because I have been told that by individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that for a number of reasons, because I've been told that by individuals I trust in other things,
Mm-hmm.
books that I trust
Mm-hmm.
from other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's the overwhelming assumption
Mm-hmm.
by my society.
Pictures that we believe weren't manipulated.
Well, there's that. But what I'm saying is every person that I talk to around me has this assumption.
Same.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is a deep primal,
Mm-hmm.
you just believe
Mm-hmm.
what 90% of your community believes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, but is that relatable to having to taking on wisdom? Because I don't have any experience of it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay, what if we took it and we said in terms of like
and I do I
yeah,
subscribe to I take as an assumption the evolutionary process through natural selection,
mm-hmm.
the generally speaking, the age of the universe and the earth that is held by most of our society.
Mm-hmm.
I take and I know that I take them as true because they seem true to me. I recognize that I don't do the math on it. I don't do the physics on it to determine this. My sense making really is, but one might say that it's because it's an appeal to authority, an appeal to the experts. I kind of, in a way, I guess, but I kind of reject that because there are, I don't want to get too far down that road, but I understand how expert opinion many times can follow kind of a mob mentality as well. And so, but these seem compelling to me. It seems compelling to stay out of the water in a riptide area. That seems compelling. Is it because I've had an experience of it? I don't know.
Imagine if you can, let's just say that everyone on the earth decided to completely believe that the riptide signs are 100% always accurate. And so we stopped going in the ocean as people.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this entire generation that has never gone in the water dies out.
Mm-hmm.
The next generation coming along, are they going to believe the signs?
Well,
because there's never been a generation to challenge it.
I think in that situation, they might make it religious.
Interesting.
They might make it a religious dogma. Because you're kind of tiptoeing on the edge of Kantian ethics there, right? If you can take it to the extreme of the entire society, does it break down society or does it make society strong? So like if everyone followed it, obviously it would not harm society in terms of, if nobody followed it.
So then the question becomes, I think this goes back to then the idea of the sign, right? I want to kind of keep us without getting too like universal with this.
A little too expansive here.
The idea that understanding that it is not a law, it's a suggestion and a warning. It doesn't say you can't go in the water. It just says when you go into the water, just be prepared for this. And I think that that's more of life lessons that we teach each other. Right. So more, I think to understand the reflection, it helps to keep it more on a personal level.
Yeah.
In that we trust the writer of that sign. Some of us do. Some of us think it's just BS. Those of us that think it's true, either we or someone we know has been caught in a riptide.
What you're saying right now is interesting. I think that every individual comes to that sign with so many different aspects in their psyche. Because when you're talking about that, people who like disregard it, I can imagine, for instance, somebody who comes with a cynicism about liability. I come from California, the land of liability. I know how this works. I know how you put up a little sign and now you're okay and the city can't be sued, right? Or whatever.
Right. Yeah. We put the purple flags on the trees so people don't ride their bikes. No motorized vehicles on our property.
Sure. Or you just like, you go, well, I told him, wipe my hands, and so someone might disregard because of that. There's an enormous number of things. It might be, well, just like I said, I mean, it might be my temperament makes me not want to do what mom and dad tell me. I was mad at mom and dad, and so I'm not going to listen to the sign, right? There's a lot of different ways that you might approach that sign to make you disregard it or take it seriously, or or make it so that you feel like you have to be the arbiter for somebody else as well. Which I think is analogous.
If it's you and your child, if you, like when you were talking about you and your oldest out bodyboarding, if you see the sign as the parent, you're going to have implications for that sign that your son would not.
That's absolutely true. And that to me seems appropriate. He's my child. I'm responsible.
There's a responsibility level to it. Yep.
You know people, I'm sure you could think of someone right now who would be really excited to tell a stranger that they can't get into the water, they shouldn't because of this sign.
Yeah.
Right? That who feel compelled to be the regulator
Mm-hmm.
of those around them. So there's and I guess the point is in all of this is that it is a really great analogy to the customs
Mm-hmm.
that a culture erects around the boundaries of what's considered acceptable
Mm-hmm.
behavior. It usually comes from some sort of inherited wisdom.
Right. We always talk about laws. Laws are created because someone did something
Yeah.
that made us feel we needed to create that law.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't even a law. This is a recommendation. And I do really like the thing about how, and it still provides you a way out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to me, when I think about the riptide sign, it's really about handing wisdom down, showing warnings like this is what can happen
Mm-hmm.
if you choose to do this. I'm not telling you don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
but know that if you choose to do this, and I think it's a better way, and I think that this goes along the lines of what you were talking about with sex before marriage as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could be an example of, it starts out with, it's one of those things where there's some wisdom in it, but the problem that we have is instead of saying this is a recommendation for you because there is some danger to it, if you find yourself in this situation, here's some ways that you could survive that, right? But what we do is we turn it into a law. Same thing you're talking about. The flags maybe go up, and I would say the flags are slightly different than the sign. The flags mean that there is a danger inherent, and we have seen it, and you need to listen. But it's different than when the person drives down the beach yelling at you to get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between, look, here's a strongly encouraged warning
Mm-hmm.
that you observe this warning, but it's not a law.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we make the mistake when we then take those and turn them into laws.
Well, when you're saying law, are you using
So, like,
that as
I'm going back to the
euphem-
idea of, I'm thinking in terms of the idea of sex before marriage.
right?
Instead of just talking to our young people about, look, here's the issue, here's the warning with that.
Mm-hmm.
We say, just don't do it.
Okay, so
Right.
you're when you say law, you're using it euphemistically.
Yes.
You're not saying like an actual law.
Right.
You're saying when we make it a hard and fast rule.
Yes.
So I do understand what you're saying. My hesitancy is that I think that there's something that gets that's a trade-off when see, I think this is an entire college psych class actually, but I think you can absolutely see the problems with the parent who simply says who says don't have sex. And usually when we're describing this and we're trying to describe it pejoratively,
Mm-hmm.
we'll make that character into kind of a caricature. They only say don't have sex and they don't talk about anything else or whatever. But let's just say they're really connected with their kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're really trying. They explain what
Mm-hmm.
sex is and all of these things, and they say no, you cannot have sex outside of marriage, right? Like they have that hard and fast rule. You can still imagine negative consequences of that, right? You can imagine a scenario.
Oh, yeah.
This is what you're saying. You can imagine a scenario where the kid, has sex anyway, feels like they can't talk to mom and dad because they're going to be so disappointed, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. And when we tell that story, I feel like we're implying, well, if mom and dad had just done X instead, then kid would be able to talk to him and it would all worked out, or it would have worked out better, whatever. I don't know if that's always the case. I can see the problem
Mhm.
for sure. I can see
Mhm.
the problem. But I also can see the problem when there's a non-developmentally appropriate instruction given. And maybe you can argue about what's
I think that's
developmentally.
absolutely true.
I can see the trade-offs, and I wonder sometimes, this is my concern with,
Mhm.
honestly, this is my concern. I'm getting a little off topic here, but my concern with religion, and why, I don't know if you've noticed, but my rhetoric, it's changed quite a bit over the last year or so.
Mm.
Because I'm very concerned that it's possible that I lose something by trying to have this kind of holistic perspective that I can't have unless I have the true believer position. And I don't have the true believer position. I can't do that. I can't do what I can't do. But I get concerned, and especially not for me, but for my kids. I get concerned that I can't give them something that I don't even know that they need, and that it'll be too late.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be in the riptide before I realize, oh, that's why Grandma and Grandpa said,
Yeah. Okay.
Just teach them Jesus died for your sins, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to stick with the sex one.
Yeah.
Let's say that we say don't have sex.
Yeah.
And we leave it right there.
Yep.
Right. And we don't explain the why.
Yep.
Why we think that this is a good thing, why this has sort of become a thing, right? And they, because you have such a great relationship, they listen.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah.
And then they have kids.
Yeah.
And they tell their kids don't have sex. And let's just say that their kids they have such a great relationship. They're like, yeah, absolutely. All right. Then the next generation comes along. Don't have sex. Why? Well, because I told you to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that to just always make, like, it's important to understand the why, and understand the potential dangers in it, right? Because the other thing too is, let's be honest, with don't have sex before marriage, sometimes you do, and it actually just works out fine.
There's no rip current.
There isn't any, right?
Yeah.
You end up marrying that person, maybe, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And so maybe it is, well, you know what? If you're too young, there's going to be some emotional baggage that's going to come along with this that you're not going to be prepared to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Again, or unwanted pregnancies or whatever the case may be. Explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do it, you already kind of laid down the groundwork, and now we can deal with that particular issue of it. And then maybe they've learned, and then the next time they tell their kids, look, you don't want to do this, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And unfortunately, when it becomes like this hard, fast, and then when now just another thing, layer to it, but when we start attaching a morality to it, that becomes even more a problem, because then when I do break that law that you have given me and you've attached a morality to it, now there's no way I can tell you, because now it's not only did I break the law, but I'm an example of a moral failure.
That one doesn't resonate with me.
Okay, maybe not.
I don't know that I feel like it. I don't have any problem with attaching morality to it.
But I think that it just adds another layer of guilt when the law then is broken.
Of course it does,
and that might be a good thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we have morals. There are morals. It's just that this one is not one that I think you feel compelled by.
I'm not arguing about morals.
But what I'm saying is, I know that this. Okay, it's so funny we got down this road. I know that this is one that we have all decided as a culture we're not supposed to care about. Right? It's only supposed to be about effectiveness in life. It's only supposed to be about pregnancy reduction and STD reduction and all, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that it's a trade-off. And I think that you find trade-offs. And I can definitely, obviously, I'm not saying that you're wrong about that it will make it more difficult for that child to communicate then with the parent, because they will have this weight, right?
It's an additional weight to it, yeah.
But I also wonder if that's necessarily a bad thing all the time, or if it's
Sure.
There's a lot of things that I would be concerned about my kids not telling me about if they did, that I have said don't do this, that I would be concerned if they, but that I still want them to feel that weight. But I want to stay connected with it. Do you know what I mean? Like I have this ambivalence.
I guess
and
my
just don't
thing
know.
is, I guess what I'm saying is it can't solely be based on the morality of it.
Okay, completely agree. And this is where I'm hearing Krista scream into my ears saying it's always about connection, which you could call love. It is always about, when it comes to the parent-child relationship, and probably with everyone else too, it's always about, take a breath. Do you still want to be connected with them? Try to get that connection again. We're never going to let anything break the connection, no matter what. And when the child doesn't believe that, it's my job to show them again, over and over again. When I am 83 years old and my child is in his 60s, it is still incumbent on me. I am still a parent. It is still my responsibility to make sure that they know they are a part of me. I am part of them. We are still connected. Nothing breaks that. So I completely agree with you on that. I think maybe that's the thing that you can do. I always get into this. I always sit here and I wonder, like, when we're talking about, well, if you do this, then the kid's going to do this. I know about this parent who did this, and then the kid turned out to be a perfectionist, or whatever. And the implication is always, if the parent had just done X, then that wouldn't have happened. And I just don't know.
That's such a moving target. I mean, there's always unique cases. There's always, and it's like the whole thing about two kids brought up in the same house, and they completely are different kids. And I mean, I don't know. I can't figure it out. And I do think the difference between, again, I'm going to go back, and I think we're about to ready to wrap this up. But the difference between the red flag and the riptide sign is that it's a warning. It's like this is possible, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is.
Yeah.
Be ready for it just in case. But there are also times when it's appropriate for the red flag to go up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we're talking about too, is that there are times when it's like, don't do it. It is dangerous. Don't. And there's other times where, like, it looks like it might be calm. It looks like it might be okay. And it actually might be. But just know that there is some potential problems with this. There's a potential dangers with this. And if you find, I mean, that's the difference between a red flag and a sign that just says riptide. If you walk up to a section of beach and it just says riptide on a red sign, don't go in the water.
Right.
Because that means all the time, this water is not something you want to be swimming in.
Well, and here is where I think the analogy maybe stops. When we're talking about
analogies.
Sure,
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, when it comes to our kids, going back to this conversation we ended on, if I've put up the red flag and I've said, do not get in, it is dangerous, and my kid still gets in and still gets into trouble, and we could argue about, let them feel their consequence or whatever. That's still my responsibility to make a judgment call on what consequences they can feel.
You better be real careful with a riptide.
What consequences they can feel, what consequences they can't. Let them sit in jail overnight. Don't let, whatever,
don't let
these
them die.
types of things, right? If they're caught in the riptide, my job as the parent is to die for them, right? Metaphorically, literally, whatever. If there's any reason that I exist, any reason, that has to be it in my estimation. So going back to what we were talking about, and it's not the lifeguard's responsibility to die instead of you. It's the lifeguard's responsibility to still try to save you within a particular reason, but that is a third party,
right.
State run type of, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the, sex issue, I say, these are the reasons. This is why you shouldn't do it. Don't do it. Maybe I even create a morality around it, right?
Sure.
And then they do. And now they're in it. That is the moment, because we only live now, right? We never live in the past or in the future. That is the moment where my wife would say, okay, now we're living here, Lucas. So now what are you going to do? And now the responsibility is go in and get them out of the riptide.
Mm-hmm.
That's your responsibility. Yeah. They did exactly the thing that you told them not to do. And the exact consequence happened that you told them would happen. And they're still in the consequence. Welcome to parenthood. That's the whole point. Go in and get them.
Go do it.
And I do think, to your point, and I think maybe this is where our common ground is, that I absolutely know in my personal life, I know the experience of, I told you not to do that. You did it. Well, you're on your own then. And you've floated off. Mm-hmm. And I have no moral responsibility because I told you not to. Mm-hmm. Right. And I do think that is where, I don't resonate with that at all. Mm-hmm. You got to go in and grab them at that point.
That's an interesting point. And I will end here is that instead of always worrying about what the moral responsibility is for the other person, when they find themselves in that situation where they did something, mm-hmm. the question is, what's my moral responsibility right
now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I enjoyed that. So just as a heads up for everybody that's listening, that was the one that if you want to go read it, it's on my Substack account, Jeffrey Strezoff. The next one we're going to talk about is called The Sand, but it's probably going to be a couple weeks, it seems like, because it is summer, and which means it's travel season for some of us. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to get the two of us, our schedules together again,
we'll do our best.
But it gives you a little bit more time to read, to listen, to reflect, and then to email us and share with us your thoughts. All right. Thanks.